Hello, everyone. I'm the Bodacious Cowboy with my co-host, Christy Knichel. Are you ready for a special edition of the Storytelling Chronicles? We are. Let's go.
Look out! Pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Yeah. Designer mix. Yeah. Inglewood's finest shoes. Whoop, whoop. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to give the color red the blues.
Hello, everyone. I am the Bodacious Cowboy, minus my trademark. I had to take it off last week, but it is a new week. It is a new month. I have a new platform going to StreamYard, which I think is a lot better than the Restream, to be perfectly honest with you. But we need to get going on this podcast. We got two excellent guests that will be joining us. But first and foremost, I must bring in the best co-host any podcaster could ever have, Mrs. Christy Knichel.
Oh, hello. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. How about yours?
It was good. It was quiet. You know, it used to be a huge family years and years ago, but now it's kind of toned down a little bit. So I don't necessarily miss all of the drama with the family at some point, but
yeah, I definitely hear you. We used to have a big outing as well, but it was quaint. It was small, and I got a little bit of rest over the weekend, which everybody needs in logistics, you know, so it was good to have. But
awesome.
So why don't you introduce the two lovely ladies that will be joining us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have two lovely ladies that are coming on today. So the first one is Danielle Spinelli, and I'll talk a little bit about her. So with a decade of experience that she has in logistics and transportation industry, Danielle brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise in carrier sales and vetting. Having worked as a carrier sales broker for 8 years, Danielle honed a deep understanding of the supply chain and transportation landscape, building strong relationships with carriers and specializing in vetting and compliance. For the past year, Danielle has been a key member of the team at MyCarrierPortal, specializing in carrier vetting. In this role, Danielle focused on educating customers how to properly review carriers to ensure that every carrier meets compliance standards, to prevent brokers and shippers from being a victim of fraud, which is extremely important. And then our next guest, Laurie Zalac, with an impressive 24-year career in transportation industry, Laurie has navigated through the various facets of the field, from fleet management and brokerage to cutting-edge technology sector. Known for her expertise and innovative approach, Laurie has consistently driven efficiency and growth in every role undertaken. For over 9 years, Laurie has been a key member of the MacroPoint sales team, leveraging her deep industry knowledge to drive sales and customer satisfaction. Laurie is also a certified transportation broker, further demonstrating her commitment to excellence and professional development in the industry. She brings a wealth of experience and deep understanding of the industry's complexities, making her a valuable asset in any transportation related endeavor. So why don't we bring them in? Oh, there they are. Look.
I was like listening about ourselves. Oh, man.
There you go. Welcome, ladies. Great to have you on board today. Thank you for your patience, as we had a little bit of technical problems in the beginning, but I think we ironed them out.
You definitely look totally different, Jeff.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's what I've been told. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like I don't have any clothes on. You know?
I was going to say, how does it feel at day in, day out? Like every morning, or you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Well, of all times to shave it, though, it's actually really cold where we live right now. He's on the other side of the state for me, pretty much. So it's like I would have kept it and then done it in the spring, but now you're going to feel the cold on your face.
Yeah, but you know what? I look a little younger, you know, that's what my wife says anyway. You know, she's very happy about that. Let me tell you, very happy. So,
yeah.
As long as wife is happy, that's all that matters.
Got to get those points.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start off with, I like to always start off a little bit about, talk a little bit about yourself. We'll start with Danielle, how you got into the industry and, you know, how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah. So I originally worked for a telecom company forever and ever. And then basically I had a girlfriend that was like, hey, you want to get into logistics? It's crazy. It's fun. You never know what's going to happen. And at the time I did mail, postal mail. So she's like, you won't ever get any sleep. You'll make good money. I'm like, oh, perfect. Let's go. And so I didn't have any more after, especially working postal. November and December were no longer actual months of being a person. You're a worker. And so after that, I left. I was a carrier sales rep there. And then after that, I left and went into another brokerage in town here and was a carrier sales rep there for about 8 years. And then worked at MCP, MyCarrierPortal, specializing like in kind of like what you said earlier, but with all the fraud. And because at my previous broker, I did mainly like high value stuff, like copper and that type of thing. So I was always on guard about somebody coming after our freight and hey, you got to drive X amount of miles first before they come and get you and all those things. So kind of taking that whole thing that I've learned in my vetting process and turning that into my Carrier Portal. I helped a lot with the development on that, the new features that came out, working with Dev, who they're amazing guys and I swear they never sleep. But and then now we got acquired by Descartes, so now part of that family. And then now I got Laurie as my coworker, who I love, and that's me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you have your new partnership with one of my really good friends, Dale Pratt
Yes.
from Freight Validate, which he's definitely going to complement. I think you both are going to complement each other on their fighting fraud and double brokering and theft and all that kind of stuff. So congratulations on that side. I think it's a match made in heaven.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love Dale. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's one of our sponsors, so it makes it perfect. So, and Laurie, what about you?
So about 26 years ago, my husband, who was only my boyfriend at that time, was a company driver and very dissatisfied. I won't tell you who he worked for. And I said to him, I said, well, why don't you go out on your own? I see guys do it all the time. And he was like, oh, holy cow, no way. Do you know what's all involved? And I'm like, no, but I'll help. And so totally drank from the fire hose, jumped in, got our authority. He's been an independent owner operator for 25 years. And we had a fleet of 10 reefer trucks in the early 2000s. And I said, well, gee, if I can do this for you, I can certainly be a broker. It can't be that hard, right? So I went to work for an agent-based brokerage, came in with a zero book of business, but grew to be their largest single agent office.
Nice.
Worked with them for 7 years. And then we both looked at each other in 07, 08 when the economy took a great big nosedive. And I said, one of us has to get a real job, you guys. Yeah, this got, like we need things like benefits. So I went to work for FedEx and stayed there until 2014. President, 3-year President's Club recipient, always exceeded my expectations there. But one of the things that I learned there was about macro point. And by the 5th year of being with FedEx, I just did not have any work-life balance. I had teenagers at home and I was like, holy cow, I need something different. I need something that kind of gives me the opportunity to be in the industry, use the knowledge that I've gained, but then also kind of take it to the next level. So I had met the owners, Dan Cicerci and Bennett Adelson of MacroPoint. And I said, do you think there's any place for me there? And I stayed on through the Descartes acquisition and have continued to grow and scale my business and continue to help carriers and brokers. And my husband still is a long haul driver, just got back from Alaska, runs all over the United States. Wow. He's quite the unicorn. I brag about him all the time. I tell him all the time that the most expensive college I've gone to is the College of Zdenko Zalac, because I can tell you for sure that it is a partnership. It is an investment, and not only in time, but money, keeping his business running. And he also keeps me aware of a lot of the things that are happening in the industry. I've also had the opportunity to travel 49 states by truck. So I have experience that a lot of folks can only dream about. And that means I did go up the Alcan. Froze my butt off, but I went.
That's so cool.
I'm blessed to be where I'm at. Thrilled that I've had a lifetime of experience to share with our team and with the industry, and very passionate about this fraud thing too, because one thing that I think that we as the broker community and shipper community sometimes forget is that the small owner operators and small carriers are being very badly damaged by this as well. So
Sure.
very passionate to speak on their behalf as well.
Yeah, that's a great
awesome.
story. And I love the fact you actually were in a truck and got
Yeah.
to go through all the, like I have a picture of me sitting in a truck, but I've never actually gone on the truck.
What?
Girl, they got to take you up the Alcan. You haven't lived until you've gone up the Alcan.
I think, I don't know, personally, I think anybody that's in logistics or in a brokerage operation should definitely get into a truck and go for a ride. There's nothing better than that, than street smarts and knowing exactly what they go through. I mean, you can hear it all day long from other people unless you see it, and you see these idiots out there brake checking and doing it's unbelievable. That's all I can say. I mean, what I'm saying means nothing unless you're in that truck and you see it for yourself. True.
I got a better one for you though, Jeff. It's a very humbling experience to take a shower at a Pilot Flying J. I'll just tell you that right up.
Well, especially as a woman, right? So like,
yes,
to be quite honest, that's one of the things that came up when we interviewed Ellen Boyd a couple weeks ago, just in regards to the fact that, like, whether you're a woman driver, right? I mean, that's specifically what we talked about, but now you're a passenger. And just some of these places aren't made or weren't made for women to go into, so to speak.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that for a second. Tell everybody about your experience when you were traveling to all these, like the pros and the cons that you went through during your time on the road.
Yeah, so for sure, you're absolutely right, Christy. A lot of these facilities are not designed for women. Personally, I feel like women maybe have a different level of cleanliness that they expect. So when you walk into the shower and you see mold and you're like, I don't want to stick my feet on that. I mean, I literally took showers with slipper sandals on because I was nervous about, whatever. But the other thing too is I was in a facility in Nephi, Utah, and had left the door unlocked. I didn't realize it was unlocked, and somebody came barging right into the. I was like, oh. Wasn't fully dressed. That wasn't very funny. I mean, it wasn't their fault, but like, it's just, a man might not have taken that as humbling. And then, as a woman, you're doing your hair, you're coming out, you smell, you put a little perfume on, and now you also have to put up with men commenting about it. So it's different. Thank God I have my own bodyguard, but I think about the women who go and do that all the time that don't have their husband walking right behind their back as well. So it's a little unnerving. Certainly food choices aren't great if you're eating in truck stops. I mean, you can try to do healthy. We pack our own refrigerator, but not everybody's blessed to have that. So those are some of the challenges as a woman on the road. I can tell you, going up the Alcan, there's 3 places that you can go to the bathroom, and none of them are very nice. Right.
One is right outside your cab.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for a male, that's very easy. For a woman, it's a little bit more challenging. Not that we haven't done that maybe in our past life,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But yeah, no, thanks for sharing that.
Is New York. Like, we went into New York City, and that's a very difficult place. Like, you can't just go in and use a restroom anywhere when you're in the city. Like, most of the facilities are for paying customers only and things like that. So it can be really challenging. But
if you can drive in New York City, as they say, you can drive any place in the world.
Yeah,
I was a passenger.
It takes a good driver. And as a broker, it's hard to find those carriers too, to know if they actually can do it. I mean, I had a lane that went from Georgia to New York City. And I mean, I had the like, people would be like, hey, I hit this and I can't deliver the load. I'm like, dang it. It does take a certain driver to be able to do that.
And an understanding too of the geographical area and what you can do and what you can't do. I love the route designers from other states, like out in Midwest, that they never take into consideration the tolls on the bridges, and that you can't go into the city with a 53-footer, nonetheless with a lift gate on the back of it at 8 o'clock in the morning. Not going to happen. I mean, so yeah, there's so many different things that you need to know about this area. It's much different than any place else in the world.
Exactly.
Yep.
For sure. Well, let's start off a little bit, Danielle. Your history starting in the industry, what was it like coming into the industry for you? One of the things we talk about it, I started 26 years ago myself, and being one of few women, at least from a visibility standpoint, and obviously we do a lot of railroad business here. So going to the rail meetings, I still talk about this today because there might be 100 people in the room and I was the only woman. And today there's maybe 2, 3 women, couple from the railroad, but it's still very similar, at least in that space. So what was it like for you, and what do you think it's like now? Like, what has changed?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whenever I first started out and being a broker, honestly, it was just the accounting team that was women. The sales floor, I was the only woman on the sales floor. And I mean, as I'm sure all the brokers out there know, when you're on the broker floor, it's like a whole different type of world. I mean, you're like yelling at this guy and, negotiating this and, going back and forth. And so as a woman, I guess it was, I like hanging out with the guys. Like I like to be one of the guys, but that's kind of how you had to be in order to fit in, I guess. So on that front, now, since going to the tech side of things, what's been interesting is going to all the conferences, which this past year I went to 10 of them, and really not that many women. And I mean, there are more, I think, in the tech world than there is in the actual brokerage world, who I'm dealing with, customer wise, day in, day out. So I'm seeing an increase, but not, I guess, as much as I would hope, because, I do think women are really good in this industry because we can multitask so well. I mean, men are great, blah, 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 all those things. But I think women really have a good sense of multitasking, and to be a good broker or even carrier. I mean, you have to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of things at one time. So I think women kill it when they do it. I think it's just an industry that you wouldn't think you could do, but getting that out there to all the women out there, I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Laurie? Because you have a 26-year career too.
Yeah. And I started off as an agent, but I used to think that the reason why I had a difficult time securing my first brokerage job was because I didn't have a book of business. But I think as I've reflected back on that, Christy, it was much more that it was a men's industry. And I had to kind of break that barrier even more so than trying to break the barrier of not having a book of business. When I actually finally got face to face with the owners of an agent-based model and kind of shared with them my plan and my tenacity, they gave me a shot. Their attitude was, hey, you know what? We lose nothing on you because you're not getting paid unless we earn money. So, but it was interesting to me because that particular company, I would say at that time, was probably 80% men.
Wow.
The good news for us is that it was a women-owned business. So I feel like that was one of the reasons I got a shot at that point. And definitely, the whole bullpen environment, it reminds me of the Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That is totally what it's like when you're on the sales floor.
And I love it. I do miss that. I will say I do miss that part of it, but yeah.
Yeah.
What, the camaraderie or just getting blindsided every day?
I like the chaos. Yeah, I like the chaos. I do miss that. I think, especially because I work from home now and I'm just by myself here. I'm like, I need some drama. What do I need to do? My kids are the only thing I have to talk to, and so no, I do miss that, and the camaraderie too. I mean, you kind of become like a tribe, and whenever you'd have deal with a difficult driver or a different dispatcher or whatever, having to overcome that together, and you're dealing with a customer screaming at you about this, and so I miss all of that. But even as a I remember back when I first started, I would have some carriers not book or want to talk to me. They'd be like, hey, let me transfer me to somebody else because I don't want to talk to a woman. And it was mainly different diversity wise. It would be like that. But then over the years, like that was in the very beginning. So that was like almost 10 years ago. And then you kind of saw less and less and less of that. So that's kind of what I heard every now and then. It was just certain, I don't know, maybe a religion thing that it was like that. But yeah.
What was the balance in the company that you were working for as a broker? Like how many women to men?
The first company, there's probably, see, a lot of them were in accounting. So there may have been like 2 of us on the floor. And then there's probably about 30 plus reps, I would say. So
Wow.
2 out of 30. And then the second company, there was only about 10 reps, sales reps, and I was the only girl. And then there was like other department, like dispatch teams, there were some women there. And then of course in like accounting, it was all women. But as far as the sales team, it was just me.
So how did you go through real quick your day to day, knowing that you were amongst many males, you had a job to do? How did you feel in that position?
I think kind of like I said earlier, I've always kind of been like a guys girl, whatever. I don't know how to say that. I've usually been friends with guys more than girls. And so I just try to make it look like that. I wanted to be one of the guys, wanted to fit in, wanted to kill it, and I did kill it. And that I think that was the biggest thing. I know like my husband had to have like a come to Jesus meeting with me because he'd be like, you can't go to lunch with all these guys. And I'm like, they're my coworkers. I'm no one else to go with. And so he had to learn a lot of like, hey, I have a work husband and it's nothing to do with anything, relationship wise. It's just, this is who I work with day in, day out. So kind of those type of different things. It's not like working with like in a hospital where there's all women type thing. It's a different vibe.
Yeah, definitely a different dynamic for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you remind me of myself because I've always kind of been the same way as far as working with men and had better relationships with men for whatever reason. I mean, I get along with everybody, but it was that way. I will say my company though did not have. I'm a woman-owned company, and we have 70% of our staff's women, so we're like in an opposite.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's in an opposite way where we're almost like, okay, like on the men's side, it's like, making sure though that they feel, I don't want to say comfortable, but like, it's just a different environment. And some of the people that come to work for us have been in an environment like you're talking about, Wolf on Wall Street type of setup where that's not the setup we have here. So it's totally different. And when you walk in with all these women that are here too, some of the women love it because it's a change for them. But I'm sure with the men, it's a little bit different.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know
you
what?
agree though, Dan? Oh, so sorry.
No.
Danielle,
We had this conversation with Ellen Boyd 2 weeks ago, right? And Ellen and I pretty much started the same time in 1980. I think she was 79. There really wasn't too many women. But here's the thing. I enjoyed working with the women truck drivers, which were few, right? Because they were more organized, like you said. They were more organized. Their cabs were neat. I mean, like it was a whole different thing. And you knew when you had a woman on the job, not to put men down or anything like that, but there was a different process in the way that they did business compared to men at that time, and then it just started growing, every 5-10 years, you saw more women that got more involved in the truck driving, and you started seeing the teams and then the way that men treated women and the way that women treated men started improving. Not to say that we're where we need to be right now. We still got a ways to go, but I do believe we're going in the right direction. Do you think
Yeah,
so?
I agree. Yeah,
totally
personally,
agree.
I do. Yeah.
So let's see here. One of the things I wanted to also ask you ladies is, so for me, mentoring is very important. I didn't really have that early on in my career. Was always afraid to reach out. Eventually I did, and had, many different kinds of mentors throughout the way, not like a specific program, so to speak. But one of the things I love to do today is working with other women and men. It's not just women, but the majority of them are women, as far as trying to be a mentor for them and ask questions, and then, not only become friends, but then you help each other. So Well, I guess we'll start with Laurie. Is there any mentors that you've had in your past, and what do you feel about mentoring?
Well, first of all, I think mentoring is super important. And I think I've had a lot of different mentors through my career. I would honestly say that as I helped my husband kick his business off, one of my mentors was actually a lovely lady by the name of Doreen Weekly from OIDA. And Doreen would guide us and give us different information and keep us educated and put us in touch with, different resources as we were learning the ropes of the business. And I absolutely agree that it's so important. I personally try to, offer my experience to my coworkers, but also I think it's so important to lead by example. This is a really dynamic industry that there's constant change in. And one of the things that Danielle will tell you, I preach it all the time, is like, you know what, this is an industry where you be very careful what bridge you burn, because one day you will have to cross it. So I always tell everyone, protect your own personal brand, always present yourself with the highest of ethics in the industry, and help anybody along the way that you can, whether it's, somebody that's just starting out, whether it's someone who needs to learn a specific skill set. But, in particular, I would say that I've been blessed by the mentorship of Dan Cicerci here at MacroPoint. I don't know if you know him personally, but I will tell you that never a better leader, never a better person, very fair, has really taught me, if anything, he's taught me patience, because sometimes I tend to leap and then look. But he's taught me a different way of thinking about things. And so for that, I'm really grateful.
Oh, that's great. Like, I think that is so important, just like you said too, and not be afraid to ask. Like, and that was my biggest thing, like feeling as if they were going to judge me, like I should know the answers to these questions, but I just didn't. So what about you, Danielle?
Well, honestly, right now, Laurie is my mentor. That's why I made sure she was on here today too, because I'm like, she knows way more than I do about things. So bring her on. But no, Laurie's been really helpful. And then like previous to this, I had Meg. I don't know if you guys met her at one of the trade shows, but she's really top, especially going from a broker to the tech world. It's the same, but it's different because you're still dealing with the same type of stuff, but it's kind of a whole different ball game. And then dealing with the conferences, and I don't know, she really helped me so much. Like I've learned so much from her. But previous to that, in my broker life, honestly, all I would do is cling to whoever was top salesperson, and cling and watch and study and ask. I mean, I don't care to ask questions to anybody. I'm not very shy. So I definitely would just, blast all my questions at them, and they probably were very annoyed. But, luckily, I think because I also built good friendships with everybody on my team, because I knew that was going to be important. Kind of like what Laurie said, like, I don't want to burn any bridges. Everybody's my friend. Always having someone, even if it's not a true mentor, having just, hey, I have this question, and somebody answer me right away because I got this guy on hold, and, that type of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So one of the other things I wanted to talk a little bit about as well is, women in leadership. So what do you think women need to do, I guess, to better position themselves to get into those leadership positions? I know some companies are doing the right things and some companies are not doing the right things. So what are some things that maybe you've seen or you feel that would be helpful to women getting into that leadership role? Because I feel like there has been a lot more women come into the industry, but not necessarily in those leadership roles.
And I do agree with that. I think there's still a lot of men in the leadership roles. As far as my take on it, I think, especially like in the carrier brokerage world, taking risk on your own and jumping out there, I think a lot of women have the skill sets. Like I was saying before, they're very, talented in multitasking and staying organized, like Jeff said, and keeping their cabs clean. I think that makes such a big difference in just day to day. And I don't think that, a lot of women realize that they do make such an impact, and, they can build their own brand, or like, let's say they're a carrier and they have their own truck like this. Well, this is my standard, and I'm taking on this guy to join with me. That's their standard. As far as that part goes, I think taking a lot more risk on yourself, which I know myself as a woman is very scary, and I want that security blanket over me. And it's kind of why I've always worked for a company and never done that myself. But I think that's the biggest thing as far as, really getting up there. But as far as if you're working for a big company, I think mainly standing up for yourself and, going in, hitting the grind every day, just like everybody else would, and not really I try to not think of myself as anybody different. Like, just because I'm a woman, I'm not any different. I can do the same things. Like, I was out there doing all my yard work this weekend, and my husband was like, well, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm like, no, you're not. Why can't I not do this?
Yeah.
So I think just really thinking of yourself as the same way, then that portrays onto others, and go from there.
Awesome. What about you, Laurie?
A couple things. Number one, I think one of the things that I've seen in my own personal experiences, because, and it may be just self-imposed, Christy, but sometimes I think I have to compete much harder and be much better than my male counterparts in order to retain my position, retain my credibility. I do think that part of it is a change of mindset. And I also do think that oftentimes women fail to promote themselves out of fear. So I think that it's very important that when you work within a large organization to, number one, speak about yourself, but then also ask others what people say about you in rooms that you're not in, so that you have an understanding of your value and continue to present yourself and apply for openings. A lot of times we just say, well, unless somebody comes to me and gives me this, I'm not going to get it. Wrong. You must put yourself forward. You must be willing to accept defeat, and also ask, what can I do to win that position? How do I compete with my male counterparts in order to become the CEO, the COO? Because I think a lot of times we just become satisfied with where we are, and we don't put ourselves forward out of fear.
I think to follow up on that answer, I would feel that it's kind of difficult in a male dominant corporation when you're trying to ask people, what are they saying about me? I mean, how do you get over that, to get that feedback when you're limited to your resources, sort of speaking?
Yeah. And I think that's where you need to have a mentor or a trusted counterpart, or someone that you can transparently get those answers from. You certainly don't want to go up to just anybody and go, hey, what do they say about me? Because then you kind of almost sound like you got an ego problem. But if you have a trusted counterpart, and you say, hey, how do they view me? Do they view me as a leader? Do they view me as, a top contributor? Do you think that if I applied for this position, again, using those mentoring or leadership opportunities to kind of talk about how you can be more powerful within your organization. But you're right, in male dominated companies, it is tough. It is a cultural shift. And thankfully, one thing I will say, in the 9 years I've been at Descartes, I've seen our culture shift greatly. So it happens. Sometimes it just happens a little more slowly.
Yeah. No, definitely good input for sure. And I think the other part too is just, even like where I sit, right? A lot of us CEOs, or whether you are or not, we still have that imposter syndrome too that happens where, again, I could ask anyone out here, well, how do you think I'm doing? I want them to grade me, and they have like a hard time. And it's like, but I need that from them. And they're like afraid to tell me what I might need to work on. But I will say my COO has done a good job in regards to giving me some feedback in some areas. And sometimes I'm just like, hey, I know I'm a pain and I'm causing some issues over here and I need to stay out of operations or whatever it might be. But at the same token, I also feel like even in the position I'm in, that feedback is crucial to get however you can get it so that you can better yourself. And I think also for me, just to know that like I'm doing the things I should be doing sometimes.
As long as it's constructive criticism.
Yeah, I was going to say, which it's hard. Which can be really hard to hear too. So I think you have to really be a strong person as well to take that. Like, you need to know, hey, if I get told I'm the worst ever, how am I going to handle this? I'm not going to shut down and really think I'm the worst ever. I'm going to take that and apply
Right.
this into
Yeah.
how I can be better, you know?
And
Yeah,
right
everybody
before,
needs a coach, a mentor, and a very good disciplinarian.
Yeah.
You really need that to move forward.
Yeah.
As long as they're trying to help you move forward and tell you what you really don't want to hear, that you really need to hear.
yeah, and right before we go to sponsors, one last thing I have too is because we are so women heavy here at Kineshal, I did bring in a woman leadership coach to work with the team here because it was always a male before, and I'm like, wonder how this would be, and my COO has worked with her as well to better understand how to work with women. But one of the things that she did help us with, and for me to get feedback and the other leaders, was, what are some things I do well and what are some things I could do better. And I think that made it easier for us to communicate even as leaders in a way that maybe didn't come across, whether it's condescending or, just not taking it in a bad way or whatnot. But I'm sure it's still hard for anyone who has to judge me at the end of the day when I'm asking, because I can't be better at what I do if they don't give me feedback too. So,
Right.
Right.
well, with that, let's go to our sponsors, and we will start with TIE Software. So TIE TMS simplifies freight management for brokers, offering an all-in-one platform for quoting, booking, and tracking shipments. Learn more at tiesoftware.com.
In the fast-paced world of freight brokering, success demands a battle-ready strategy. TIE TMS equips brokers with the ultimate battle station for conquering a tough market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform where rate intelligence and quote history converge on a single screen. It's not just a page. It's a strategic command center designed to help brokers win. TIE equips your team with all the data they need to negotiate with confidence and allows them to communicate directly with carriers and customers from a simple control base. Revolutionize the way your brokers perform by giving them a competitive advantage with TIE TMS. For more info, scan the QR code or go to tie-software.com/battlestation.
Freight Validate, the ultimate identity and compliance verification system for the logistics industry. Freight Validate empowers shippers, brokers, carriers, and more to ensure compliance with regulations and mitigate fraud risk. With Freight Validate, you can easily verify entities' compliance status and identify potential threats within minutes. Don't risk your business with unverified carriers or brokers. Choose Freight Validate for peace of mind. Learn more at freightvalidate.com and start your verification process today.
Freight brokers and motor carriers depend on Freight Validate to stop fraud, but they can't do it alone.
Shippers must verify every carrier that comes in to pick up a load.
Hey Siri, check Freight Validate.
Sure, what's the MC number?
123127.
The company you can rent ME LLC is a carrier and cannot be completely validated at freightvalidate.com. The platform is not able to verify information obtained in federal, state, or public sources in regard to identity, risk assessment, or compliance history with 100% certainty. Please follow company protocols for additional safety and compliance vetting. For more information, please go to freightvalidate.com.
Fly-by-night freight brokers, how can I help you?
Mr. Broker, why did you send me this carrier? They are not validated on Freight Validate. Please do not send me any carrier that is not validated on Freight Validate. If you are not using Freight Validate, I suggest you start. I'm sorry, we cannot load you. Your company does not meet our compliance standards. Please call your dispatcher for more information.
Fraud starts with fraud. It ends with Freight Validate.
Next one is TAFS Incorporated, which provides transportation factoring solutions to boost profits and increase cash flow for small and medium-sized companies. Contact TAFS at tafs.com to elevate your financial success.
At TAFS, trucking excellence meets unparalleled service. Enjoy exclusive benefits like our fantastic tire discounts. Need cash fast? Try our 1-hour advances. Plus, we're here for you 365 days a year. Need loads? We have a pro dispatch service. This is why TAFS was recognized as the top factoring company in 2023. You'll benefit from strategic partnerships for enhanced operations. access business loans, and manage your finances easily with our client portal, F2 Fuel Card, and mobile app. At Taft's Factoring, we're more than just a factoring company. We're your partner in success. Contact us today to see how we can help your trucking business thrive.
And we're back.
We are back.
I love your sponsors. You got some good guys on there.
We do, and it's definitely unique, right? Compared to like other shows where they talk about them, but like we have these little commercials and
No, I like it.
Jeff, you want to talk about that a little bit of what we're doing with the sponsors?
Yes. So since the beginning, when Christy and I got together, we wanted to do something for women in this industry. So all of our sponsorship money, we are going to give back to either a specific women organization for training purposes, whatever it may be. The hardest part of taking that money is to choose whom we're going to give it to. So we have pretty close to 3,000 right now, and we're gonna make a decision early next year and make that selection. It's just very, very difficult. It really is. Because there's so many worthy people out there, corporations that should get it. I mean, it's very hard decision to make.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't even imagine. Well, that's cool that you guys do that, though.
Yeah, cool. It's all about giving back. I think when you can and when you've had time in the industry, and I think that's one of the most empowering things that I love to do. So it's definitely important for sure.
I concur.
Yeah. So another question for you ladies. So since we are talking about being a woman in a male-dominated space, what is like the most significant barrier would you say you've had to face within your career is in terms of being that only woman, or have you had one?
Laurie, do you want to go?
I would say probably initially, a lot of people look at you, and especially, I'm a little older than the rest of you. And so they look at me and they're like, what does she know? But then when you open your mouth and you speak and you speak from a place of wisdom and experience, I think it does kind of retrain how people respond to you. Like I said, the biggest experience was traveling all over in the truck. And when I could share those experiences with men in the industry, especially men who'd never had those same experiences, it does create a whole new level of credibility. Another thing, I think, when you think about the broker space, when I was brokering freight, I have a very full understanding of what it costs to run a small trucking company. Christy, I know you guys aren't a small company, but you obviously have a very big handle on the finances. And when inexperienced brokers would come and make offers to drivers of, $1 a mile for freight, I'd sit back and go, do you really know what it even costs to run a truck? Do you understand that a gallon of fuel is X? I know when we started our company, the average freight rate for reefer freight was about $1.50 a mile. Fuel was $1.89. Reefer freight's pretty much still $1.50 a mile, but fuel's not $1.89 anymore, and tires aren't $350 anymore, and insurance isn't $500 anymore. So I do think that my industry experience has helped me overcome a lot of that, but there is that initial, oh, what does she know mentality until you are able to show your own experience. That's been my take on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think probably my biggest barrier was whenever I was a broker and in the bullpen and dealing with a lot of emotions. And honestly, every time I get really mad, I cry. And so I'm like in the background. Yeah. Well, like if I'm like, I'm fuming and I'll just like tears are running out of my face. And of course, like all the guys are like, what the heck? Why are you crying? Like, what is happening? And trying to be like, I'm just mad, it's not like I'm crying. So I guess that was probably my biggest barrier, was trying to figure out how to not cry and freak everybody out when I'm mad. But
Yeah,
But
it's
it shows
interesting.
passion, though. I mean, it does. So there's nothing wrong with that. Seriously.
I know. Well, and then I had to learn that too. Like, hey, this is just who I am. Sorry, I'm not like changing it. But I mean, trying to shove it down, I guess, a little bit. But
Yeah, be you. So,
yeah, true. I like it. Where were you at in the
Authenticity is
bullpen?
your authenticity, Danielle, is what's amazing about you. So I say don't push
Keep
it down.
keep going, everybody.
Yeah, so you need that confidence boost. Actually, speaking of that, that's one of the things we talk about quite a bit on here, how women tend to have a lack of confidence, which is also rolls up into everything else we talked about already. And that's not every woman, obviously. There's some very strong women out there that don't admit or feel that they have that issue. But have you ladies struggled with that?
Sure, absolutely. There have been times where, well, I can tell you when I applied for a position at FedEx, I went in there thinking, oh man, they're not gonna choose me. I don't fit that mold. And I was shocked after the first interview, and there was such an outpouring of, oh my gosh, we're lucky to have you. And then I thought, oh, well, wait a minute. I guess I'm better than I thought. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I do think that's one area where I think me personally, I've taken Owens to take new people and constantly, rekindle in them that confidence by saying, Danielle, you're doing an amazing job. You're going to kill this. You've got this. You totally understand this. If you don't, let me show you how to. But it's so incumbent upon us as women to constantly remind and reassure our colleagues of their value, because this is an industry that, not unlike others, but would beat you down and make you leave.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely beats you down. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that for me, like I'm pretty confident, as you guys can tell, all the time. But
Until you cry. No, just
I know,
Yeah,
until
until you
I get
cry.
married, I know.
And your
until
guard
the
goes down.
No, but I do. But like, I think just like everybody else in the whole world, male or female, I do need reassurance and knowing, I've been in sales forever and ever, and even just hearing like, hey, by the way, you are killing it, just like Laurie does for me, which is awesome. Or I think I need to hear that, even if I know I'm doing well. I just need that extra, like, hey, somebody else notices me, and just kind of getting that extra boost. And so, just like Laurie said, I think definitely putting somebody under your wing and like kind of helping them out, especially if you're seeing they're struggling confidence wise, especially being a woman in the industry too. Like you can get really, beat down and told not to cry. So
I didn't
Yeah.
say that.
I know. Yeah, I knew you did it. I'm just saying.
No, but I mean that's the reality of it too. Like people are gonna react differently, but I also feel like what you said too is like everybody needs to hear that they're doing well, or again, like on the other side, what you need to do better. I would say one of the things I'll share during my journey and why I think I have become even a better leader than maybe I would have is because my dad never really said he was proud of me. And even though he put me in the position to lead, it was almost as if like he believed in me, but didn't completely believe in me because I didn't have the education background, like quit college. But it was like, let's hire people with college educations. And I'm over here like, hey, I'm running the company and I don't have one. Like, I just felt like the message was not there. And I felt like I had to constantly prove myself. So I worked even harder. And eventually he did tell me he was proud of me, obviously. But I felt like that alone, was something that probably would have boosted me even more. But not hearing it made me feel like I had to work 10 times harder just to feel like, am I doing a good job or not? So I do think that that's important. And I think it's so important for women to be able to build that confidence that they need, not just for themselves, but, within your personal life, your career, like all of that. You have to have some of that confidence. And I don't know that anyone can say they're completely confident in anything that they do. But,
Not right.
But, just
Christy, you bear the name of your company too, so you had a whole different level of responsibility, and So I can honestly tell you that I can see where that would, if Mackerel Point was named Laurie Jolitz, I would be nervous. Am I achieving? You know what I mean? I can
And it
totally
goes
see
back
that
to,
would,
yeah, and it goes back to, like you said, burning bridges, right? Like my dad always taught me not to burn bridges, because you're right. People move around. Your name and your brand is everything.
Yep.
Everything.
And
yes,
I bear the name of the company, so it's even more pressure at the end of the day.
exactly.
It's good, I will say, but in the same token, yeah, it's can definitely be challenging for sure.
You know something?
And
There's
add
one thing.
family.
There's one thing that's missing that guys really need to figure out is emotional intelligence, especially when they are managing women. I learned a long time ago, because the women, I was bad. I had this story with Christy, and I was not a bad person, but I was like over pushy and everything. So I needed somebody to straighten me out. So what did I do? Right? I hired a preacher's wife. I'm telling you, I mean, right? Yeah, no more cursing. He was done with, or she would put
Oh man.
It sounds like you need her back, Jeff.
What's that?
You might need her back.
Yeah, I know. And then I definitely an authoritative person that I hired too that would be in my face. This is going back like 35 years, and it was just like the best thing that ever happened to me. And the one thing I learned is that you have to have that emotional intelligence instead of just listening. Here's the key word: listen with intent to understand what is being said so that you can reply to it, with a real answer instead of being more push off, my way or the highway kind of deal. And it's so imperative to helping women, progress and level up and get to that next part of their career. And it is missing. I hate to say it, but it is missing.
Yeah, there's a book called Emotional Intelligence. I actually made my son read because he was dealing with it in sports where he would get so angry and then just freak out whenever it was just about the game, and teaching him like, hey, you can harness that emotional feeling that you have into greatness, but you need to know how to, IQ-ly deal with it. And another thing too I wanted to, I guess, mention was, even having that emotional intelligence as far as like a leader with not only a woman, but like her being a mom and dealing with the whole, my kid's calling sick and what do I do? And I know that this load needs to be covered, or I know I need to go do this and do that. I mean, that's a huge thing that I know. I had my daughter at 19, so I was a teen mom, basically on my own, single mom, doing all the things, and having to go through that, as well as have like knowing I have to make this money. I know I need to provide for this. As a woman, that's kind of why I couldn't do bad. I had to push through and be confident and all those things I had to. Anyway, so luckily I had leaders that were like emotionally intelligent enough to deal with me in that sense.
That's great. Did that help your son after he read the book, do you feel?
Hopefully he read the whole thing. I kind of think he skipped a bunch, but he did. It does make a big difference. I mean, he's not throwing chairs anymore, so we've came a long ways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know.
That's a good sign.
He's 15, so he's in the height of it. He's 6'5", 15, basketball guy, and he just let everything.
15.
I'm sure his testosterone was through the roof, and yeah, so he just had to learn. I'm like, you're getting looked at, and you cannot be freaking out. I mean, you have to harness this. So he definitely came a long ways. Is he there yet? No, but he's working on it.
15.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah, my son's 13 going on 14, and so yeah, it's a
rough
different
years.
Yeah, different
Yeah.
level, that's for sure. It's like, how'd this hole get in the wall? Or
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The doorknob's missing on his one door. I mean, completely gone, and the one piece is bent. I'm like, he's like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, you're the only one who lives
I woke
upstairs.
up and it was done.
Right?
Oh, mine ripped the door off the door. Like the door hinge was off. I'm like, what? He's like, I was just messing around and we were wrestling. I'm like, how?
Yeah, it must be boys at that age or whatnot.
Yeah.
But, well, I know we talked a lot about the whole women thing, but I do want to touch a little bit, Jeff, if you're okay, on like what your companies do.
Yeah.
So that you can tell the audience what you do. You're fighting fraud out there. What does that mean? So Got the
Yeah.
floor, Danielle.
Okay, I'll start first because I know, luckily, because we're coincide, me and Laurie, kind of like lasso her in, she can do her spiel. But yeah, so MyCarrierPortal is an onboarding and vetting service. So being able to quickly look up a carrier and see, can I work with them, can I not, based on different criteria, and you can customize it to show, like for instance, my old company had a 5-truck minimum, so they had to have at least 5 trucks, had to be in business 1 year, had to have a certain insurance, and go from there. So instead of me, before, I had like this checklist I had to go through, and wake up in the middle of the night, oh my god, I think I forgot to do this, and what if this guy's a scam artist because I didn't do this, and taking all that like human error out of it. So whenever we switched over to MyCarrierPortal, it made such a difference for me as a user. And so whenever I came on board as being in their sales, really teaching people how to properly vet, because I think you can have a tool out there that shows you all the things, but if you don't know what to do with it, or how to take that next step, what's the point of the tool?
Right.
So it's one thing that I really love about our company is we really specialize in the training aspect of it. And then now with the whole acquisition with Descartes, so we had, my favorite thing is what we call VIN verification. So if you kind of like, I don't know if I should work with this guy, or, I don't know who this guy really is, what should I do? We have a thing called VIN verification. You text a link to a driver. They send in a picture of their truck showing their VIN number. We run that VIN to say, does it belong to this truck? Does it belong to somebody else? So eliminating the double brokering aspect. And even just the day in, day out of hey, this is owner operator. I need, a lease agreement just in case if a claim does happen. If, a lot of times they're not willing to share that after the fact when there is a claim, but knowing that ahead of time, is crucial, I think. So that aspect of the VIN verification tying in with MacroPoint. So now we're able to see as far as a full 360 view on a carrier. And like you mentioned, we're with Freight Validate. So we get the whole aspect of how do they register with FMCSA? Are they actually compliant with the government? Are they lying to the government? I have that part with Freight Validate built in, which I love. And then MyCarrierPortal kind of does the whole, how have they been operating while they've been active? What's their authority like, their safety rating? If they've had any reports for double brokering or whatever the case may be, you'll see that whole picture. And then now with MacroPoint, having the whole, part of it of how they've been tracking. And I'll let Laurie talk more on the MacroPoint part, as especially the fraud guard that they offer, because it will come directly into place. And maybe I need to keep talking.
For sure. I had to put you on mute for a second because working from home, you have to have dogs act up. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Fine.
So yeah, MacroPoint real-time visibility solution. Obviously, we can determine where trucks are. I know we work with a lot of your organizations. Obviously, we've got a large footprint in this industry, but we've also released a product called Fraud Guard as part of your subscription, where we are able to identify potential loads at risk, not necessarily at risk for theft, but where there's been bad data. Where we've been able to identify bad data. Maybe it's come from a spoofed location, or we look at billions of different data points to determine the validity of the data that's being sent in. And we can notify you. And we've actually worked with some of our customers to kind of share those even with their security and risk teams. And it gives you an opportunity to, number one, talk to your carriers and say, looks like maybe this isn't good data source. Why would you spoof data or whatever? And it also maybe helps you identify whether you want to continue to work with that carrier in the future. As I say, it doesn't necessarily mean that the load is going to be stolen, but it means that there was a reason in their mind's eye that they needed to massage the data that was being sent to MacroPoint. And we are able to expose that within the app back to you right into your TMS through alerting, things like that. One of the things we're super excited about is all the enhancements that are coming in our future roadmap with regard to pulling that data in, sharing that data, the VIN validation within MacroPoint to co-customers of both MacroPoint and MCP. So we're really looking forward to the next 6 to 9 weeks, some real positive things to be able to share to the industry. Might be a little bit premature to go too deep right now, but we're super excited. It was a strategic acquisition. Descartes and MacroPoint are very invested in helping contribute to the solution in this problem.
That's good.
Yeah, it's real good. Obviously, it's been a huge issue within our industry for a long time, but truly highlighted more over the past couple years, more than I've seen in my career. And I'm sure any of us, I think we all talk about that, to be quite honest. So it's great to have some technology out there that's like this. So we are coming up to the end of our show, which is crazy that it's already been an hour.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
With that being said, I always like to ask the guests to leave our viewers a piece of advice, coming into this industry, or whether they're in this industry. What kind of advice would you give someone out there that's listening?
Laurie, you go first. I got to think.
I'm going to tee off of something you said earlier, Jeff, and that is listen to learn. In my early days, I would say that I listened to respond. And part of my wisdom as I've gotten to be more senior in the industry has been to listen to learn, the challenges that people are facing, the struggles that they may have, how I can be helpful. Those are probably that. And again, don't burn any bridges.
I'm going to steal the "don't burn any bridges." That's going to be mine, because I'm a firm believer in that. You never know where you're going to end up, or who's going to acquire you, or who's going to be your, like, they're leaving that company to go here. And even as a broker and carrier relationship, you never know. Maybe somebody has a bad safety rating now, and you don't want to, blow them off right now, because maybe they'll fix that and come back later. So keeping your, your relationships open, and really building relationships, period. I mean, that's what this whole industry is about. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great advice from both of you ladies. So, well, we thank you very much for coming on today. And
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And where can our viewers find you both?
LinkedIn. So Danielle Spinelli.
You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find, if you need to reach out to us directly, certainly through www.macropoint.com. There are links to our site there. You have a direct
MyCarrierPortal.com will take you to me too. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank
you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday.
Yes.
You as well.
Yes, and awesome. And you're so right about not burning any bridges. Whether good, bad, or indifference, somebody knows somebody in the industry, and you want to leave on a good note, even though you have a sour taste in your mouth. Someday that might just kick you in the butt if you say the wrong thing, and you surely don't want. Even though the industry is $1 trillion plus, it's small in nature, and everybody. So
everybody knows everybody. Yep, that's for sure.
Knows everybody. So thank you, ladies, for joining Christy and I today. Love to have you back in a future podcast next year, quarter. I can't believe it's going to be 2025 already. It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
I know. So with that said, we will both see you 2 weeks from today with another special guest. So with that said, the Bodacious Cowboy is out. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you soon. Take care now.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, so that didn't go bad. The only thing is, if we can figure out how it still shows live.
Yeah, I know. It should be off.